Opinions expressed are those of the show's host, not WPSL, WSTU, or eXP Realty. Any reproduction or reuse of this program without written consent of WPSL and WSTU is strictly prohibited. Besides, Bruno Bacigalupi is in the backyard, and he's got one of those curling balls that he'll hit you with if you try and violate that.
Be nice.
And now,
be nice.
here's host Eileen Simons and Paula Brady. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. You're going to give us a bad reputation, you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm the one with a bad reputation, but I mean, people have known that for 30 years.
They're just used to you, huh?
Or tolerate one or the other.
Good morning, everybody. Happy President's Day. For those of you that don't have to work or go to school today,
Yeah.
nice day off.
Yeah.
This is a live show, so if you'd like to call in with any real estate related questions, feel free to call the radio station to do that. 772-340-1590. That's 1590. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Eileen will answer all your questions.
Listen, you're the one
that
wrote the contract this weekend, not me.
Is that passing the buck? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always fun. That's
There you go.
something I've been
Well,
looking forward
you're
to.
just an overnight success.
Oh yeah. Well.
See, that's why I'm
or
going
a
to get
flash in the pan.
That's why I'm going to get into real estate. It's
Yeah.
just like that. Everything
Yeah.
comes, right?
And
Well-
no, we don't have a yacht to sell from
No, unfortunately.
or an NFL player in our back.
Yeah, well,
Pocket.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Well, maybe I could get the
Help us with that.
dinghy from our old boat.
I was gonna say we have
in
a kayak.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, you guys have put up like a little.
I have a little
Google or
brass
something
sailboat
like
in
that.
the office. Does that help?
Yeah.
That works.
Okay.
I know how to run a dinghy with a little pet motor.
Me too.
Yeah, I've done that several
Outboard
times.
motor?
Yeah.
You know how to run that stuff?
Absolutely.
I know how to sail a sailboat too.
Yeah.
Hey,
I took my classes.
Yeah.
did you take Coast Guard classes?
Yes.
Oh,
Very
absolutely.
good. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did too in the
Yeah.
Marina Del Rey. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we
Oh,
had
yeah.
we had a little boat in Maryland, so that was fun. And we had a dinghy. We used to love the gun coaling, which is go out and anchor off and hang out,
That's cool.
cocktails and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So dinghies are familiar.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So what's happening other than you on cloud nine? You're taking us all to Kyle G's
Oh,
for
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
As soon
think-
as
This
that
is step
check
one
comes
in the
in.
process.
Yeah,
Just step one.
Exactly. I was gonna say it's not over till the papers are signed, so we'll see.
Right.
There you go. Yeah,
Right.
well, that's always the way it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I try to explain to everybody. This is just because you have a signed contract doesn't mean it's the end of the process. It's basically you're in the middle of it now.
Right.
So
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Yep.
So what's happening in your world of real estate?
well, what's happening is we have a wonderful guest today, and I want to make sure that we get him on and started as soon as we can because he's a busy guy too.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, look at him.
Ready
He's
to
ready
run.
to run.
Yeah.
See?
yeah, I see. Yeah. Well, he didn't know that he was coming on at noon then, huh?
Yeah.
Oh. What?
Oh, goodness.
For you folks out driving or at home wondering what in the world, we can see him. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we see his reaction.
Yeah. When we get this posted on WPSL
Oh,
TV
you'll
on
see
the
it
YouTube,
too.
you'll be able to see it too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So we are very happy to introduce Dale Armour today. He is the I wrote this. Oh, my headset just went away.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dale is a business broker. He actually was instrumental in me being able to buy the real estate business that I bought. That's how I met him. And we had an instant connection because he has the same name as one of my sons.
Well, he
So-
needs to find somebody crazy enough to buy this place.
There you go.
Well, talk to him
Talk
about
to
it. I'm sure he'll help you.
I'm available.
Yep.
We can do that.
Oh my.
Actually, oh no, I'll tell you that after the show.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So anyway, we are welcoming Dale to join us today. So good morning, Dale. Thank you for joining us on today's President's Day.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yep, good. We're going to have you back every week to dance with us to our.
Okay, sounds good.
That gets the show off to a great start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you tell everybody in our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Dale Armour. I'm the principal and founder of a company called Acquisition Experts here in Stewart. We're a business brokerage firm. We sell businesses. So we're a licensed real estate corporation, same as you, but we specialize in selling businesses. They can be from what's referred to as a Main Street business of, up to $1 million or more, or even, 50,000, 100,000 up to $1 million, or someone's coming in and more or less, buying a job. No one can fire them. No one can lay them off. No one can tell them what to do. They're buying a small business, realizing the dream of entrepreneurship. And then last year, I think my largest transaction was 10.3 million. It was a local marine manufacturing company that had the real estate with it. So our trade area, we pretty much work from, I would say, the Space Coast, Brevard County, all the way down to the Keys. So you have Brevard County, come down to Vero and Indian River, St. Lucie County, Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie, the whole Treasure Coast, Stewart area. Then we go into Palm Beach, Broward County. We work quite a bit in the Keys. Anywhere we feel we can service the client and it's in the client's best interest. And our company normally represents 80 to 100 businesses for sale, anywhere from 50,000 to 15 or $20 million.
Wow, that's excellent.
And you cover a huge area. So you spend a lot of time on the road.
I do.
I was about to ask if you had a helicopter to get to all those different places instead of driving.
I only have a Bentley, but it's pretty comfortable. But
there you go.
It would be better if I had a helicopter. I'm not quite there yet.
Oh, we do need to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
Bentley. So you could get 100 million for this, huh? Oh,
I could, and my rates aren't inexpensive. So I might get the helicopter after I sell the radio station.
There you go.
There you go.
Everybody can dream, right? That's what it sounds like.
So the good thing about Dale is that he can, if you are looking for a business any place on the East Coast of Florida, it sounds like, all the way from one end to the other.
Sure.
He can not only help you with the business, but he can help you with the real estate portion of that as well. So
That's right.
lots of times it is a it's a twofold process. Not only are you buying the business, but you're buying the real estate that the business is currently in, or maybe you're going to take the business and move locations, and Dale would be able to help you with that also.
Right. There's a number of scenarios. A lot of small businesses are in a lease space, either, in a retail plaza, or they could be in an office, building, or they could be in an industrial park, and they may just be leasing. So we would do a lease assignment, maybe get some options to extend the lease so the buyer, had a long-term access to the location. Sometimes the seller owns the real estate and they may consider leasing it back to the person who buys their business, becoming the landlord, or they may be willing to include it in the sale, or maybe they want to collect rent a few years, give the buyer an option to purchase the real estate down the road once they get their feet a little more on the ground. So there's a variety of options that exist. And we mostly use SBA 7A loans to accomplish this on anything from $250,000 higher with or without the real estate, for the buyer to come in with 10 to 20% down and the seller to get cashed out. Because as you know, that the seller never wants to be the bank. Right. So, the most important thing I think for any business owners out there listening that maybe consider selling their businesses in the next 3 to 5 years would be to document their earnings well, report all of their income, not run too many personal expenses through the business, show an officer's salary, and have clean books and records so that your business qualifies for an SBA loan. That way you get cashed out, don't have to be the bank, and get the maximum value for your business.
So I'd have to sell 16 Rolls Royces.
Yeah. Well, and I think that third comment that you made especially is important for people who are getting ready to consider selling their businesses, because if you don't show good income, then it doesn't translate to good value.
Right. I think a lot of buyers, obviously they do their income tax returns to minimize their tax consequences. And for a number of years while you own the business, that may be fine. But in the last 3 to 5 years that you own your business, that's not going to help you maximize the value. So if that's been your game plan and you want to think ahead, I think you should surround yourself with a team of advisors, your CPA, your wealth manager, and your business advisor, your business intermediary, business broker, like myself, to form an exit strategy over a several-year period to maximize what you get on the resell and have it be a major component of your retirement, which a lot of people don't think of. I think a lot of folks call us at the last minute and say, yeah, we're kind of burnt out and we just want to sell the business. And they hadn't really thought about it. They're of retirement age, but they really hadn't thought about it. The earnings aren't well documented and they're just not going to get the price they want. And they're surprised quite often. We say, well, here's what we can sell your business for now. And here's why. We can give anyone's client a broker's opinion of value at no charge. We can tell them why your business is worth what it's worth. And if that's not going to work for them now, we can tell them how to raise the value of their business in a 1 to 3 year plan to get to where they need to be. So I think quite often that's the first step if someone's contemplating selling their business is, well, how much is it worth? And is it a good time for me to sell it? And I think it is a really good time to sell a business right now, because I was reading an article the other day that over 500,000 new driver's licenses were issued in the state of Florida last year. I know it's been published that there's at least 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. So, it's a gold rush, as you know, from the real estate business, from the residential real estate business, where it's hard to get inventory and people are buying cash and, it's just a crazy market. So, I think with the number of people moving here, it's a really good time to sell. And also, I think, if they're going to try to hedge inflation with rising interest rates, the buyer's cost of money is going to go up to buy the business, which means the valuation on the business for the buyer is going to go a little bit down because they're having to pay, a higher cost for the money. So they're going to want to pay less for the business. So I think before inflation and rising interest rates, get too high, now would be a really good time to sell if they're contemplating.
So,
so.
Is there a correlation between the interest rates that for residential mortgages to the interest rates for business mortgages? Are they similar or are they very different?
So with SBA loans, which is the most popular and pretty much the only way to buy a small business, unless you can totally secure the loan through a standard, commercial lender. With SBA, the loans are primarily adjustable rate mortgages that adjust quarterly, so they can be prime plus 2 3/4,
And they adjust quarterly?
Yeah. So
Wow.
if interest is going up, your interest rate's going up, your cost of the money's going up. There are some lenders that will take that 2 3/4 and maybe bump it another 1/4 to a 1/2 point, and we'll fix that interest rate. And that would be, and there's only a few lenders that will do that. So that would be a, significant consideration right now if you were shopping SBA lenders.
Hey, Dale, when we got our bank loan, I think they were impressed with the fact that we had property in both Port St. Lucie and here. Is there a disadvantage to, say, a small business that just leases versus owning some property?
Well, I think the nice thing about owning the property is you're building an equity. If you're paying rent to a landlord, you're building someone else's equity in their property and their net worth instead of your own.
Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses do fine just paying rent, and it's occupancy cost of the business, and the business can still be very profitable, and they may be able to move it if the business grows, or they may be able to move to a smaller space if they need to downsize it, so you have some flexibility. But I think if you stay in the same location and own it over a period of years, a lot of times at the end of 15, 20, 25 years of business ownership, the real estate is your most valuable asset that you have.
That makes
worth
sense.
more than
Yep.
the business. And
Yeah.
in many cases, it's worth substantially more than the business.
That makes sense. Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's funny. My wife
Yeah.
said the same thing about me after 25 years. Sorry.
Is she looking for a broker?
Are there husband brokers out there? I don't know.
That might be a new avenue for entrepreneurship.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of times too, I think, some of the businesses and some of the franchises that buy all their locations, like McDonald's and so forth, they're almost in the real estate business more than, they're in the fast food business. If you look at the value of their portfolio of assets, they're real estate companies. So yeah, I think it's always good to have an equity.
That's interesting you say that, Dale, because Publix markets itself.
Oh,
as a real
yes.
estate company,
Mhm.
Company, really.
not a food store.
That's interesting.
So Publix, a number of years ago started buying as many of their plazas that they were occupying as they could. And then in other markets, they started building their own plazas. And then they could also control the mix of tenants. They're a strong anchor tenant, and they can kind of put things in their lease that they don't want a competing deli and, that competes with their bakery and deli and so forth like that. They have a lot of strength in negotiating a lease, but they decided, why shouldn't we just own the plazas, control the tenant mix, and have everyone paying us rent? And we're building that equity. So they realized that same business model. They also bought full liquor licenses to resell liquor in every county in Florida. So they're starting to implement that in some areas, but they're also going to control that segment of the market in their plazas.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mhm.
That's
a big
amazing.
market.
Yeah,
That's a big
that's
market.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
does well in any economy.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yes.
worse the economy, the more people drink. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, what
we're
did they
talking
say?
COVID-proof business.
I was
Yeah.
gonna, I was gonna say COVID wasn't the first year of COVID. I remember reading some
Yeah.
statistic about how much liquor
Was
prices or how much increase there was in liquor sales
Yeah.
during COVID.
That's amazing.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It's interesting post-COVID that a lot of buyers ask us now, what the essential businesses are. A lot of businesses, like in March of 2020, Governor DeSantis was forced to close down a lot of the businesses in Florida unless you were a quote essential business.
Thank God
that
real
people
estate was.
people had to have. And now we have buyers saying, well, what's a good essential business that's kind of pandemic proof or COVID proof that we could buy? And that's a question we obviously didn't used to field. Of course, the whole world's different now
Right.
post-COVID, but in our industry, we were panicked when COVID hit. I think at the time, our company had 8 sales pending, and every single buyer, pulled the plug and said, well, I can't buy a business when they're
Right,
having
if you
to shut
can't
down
have
all
it
the
open.
businesses in Florida.
Right.
They had to shut those down, and then they came through with CARES Act 1 and CARES Act 2, which provided a lot of government incentives to help borrowers and businesses with the payroll protection plans and EIDL grants and various programs that kept a lot of these small businesses alive, helped them pay rent or their mortgage or payroll. And I think it saved a lot of the small businesses out there. These were tremendous programs. And they also provided extra incentives on SBA loans. They lower down payments, waived closing costs. They waived the SBA guarantee fees. They gave 3 to 6 months of forgiven payments. Actually, they weren't forgiven. The SBA division of the US government actually paid the lender the money, so the lender didn't eat it. The SBA, a lot of people don't know, is actually just a division of the United States government that insures lenders loans for 75% of the principal value of the loan. So you're still getting the loan from your Wells Fargo, your Bank of America, your Truist, your whoever your SBA lender, and the SBA is insuring the lender on 75% of the principal balance of that loan. So the closing costs to the consumer are high in that loan because they pay what's called a guarantee fee to the SBA because they're paying for the government to insure that lender.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
It's just like the same fee that for home loans when they don't put 20% down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing in an SBA loan is that the lender, usually the buyer has to have 10 to 20% down or equity, but a subordinate seller's note can count for up to 10% of that. So they are going to be in a subordinate position behind the SBA loan with some kind of terms that the SBA is going to dictate based on the underwriting. But if they're willing to hold paper, then the buyer has, doesn't have to come up with as much money, and their seller's note actually counts as part of the borrower's equity because it's still reducing the lender's risk by the same amount they require.
That's good to know. I didn't know that that was available with an SBA loan.
Mm-hmm. I generally speaking try to avoid it for a seller. I think most of the time, if a buyer's strong enough, you don't need that, and it does put the seller in a risky position to be subordinate, behind a loan. With SBA loans for the business acquisition only, it's 10 years. For the real estate, they go up to 25. If you're buying both together, sometimes they give you a blended amortization of like 17 years, or if it's a higher dollar value altogether, they may go 25 years on the whole thing. And the maximum loan value is $5 million. And you can have more than one SBA business loan as long as it doesn't go past the aggregate value of 5 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought once you had an SBA loan, you couldn't get another one.
You can, as long as the numbers work and, the debt can be supported and everything. It's a little bit different in a business sale. They're looking at the buyer's credit and the buyer's qualifications to run the business and the buyer's post-closing liquidity. Even though they will loan working capital, they still want the buyer to have significant post-closing liquidity. And then they're looking at the tax returns of the business to see if it will support the loan and give the buyer a salary and have like a 25% cushion. And in lending, they call that a debt service coverage ratio, meaning it'll cover the borrower's salary in their loan 1-to-1 and have a 25% cushion. So that's why the business's number that's selling have to be strong, because that's the cash flow that's going to support the borrower's loan.
Interesting.
You confused yet? I don't know how we got into it, this being about SBA loans, but for buyers, it's really something great to be educated on, and sellers too, because, the seller doesn't want to be the bank, and the buyer wants to, leverage a business. They can get into the larger the business, the better the numbers work. And the way I like to look at it is your cash on cash return after debt service. So if I put 100 down on a $400,000 business and buy it SBA, can I get $100,000 return after all the expenses of the business and after the debt service of my loan? Then I would have 100% cash on cash return on my down payment. And that's kind of my initial target I usually shoot for with a buyer. It's a pretty good return.
Yeah.
But it's not a passive investment, like an income producing real estate investment. It's an operating business, so you can increase it or you can run it to the ground, but the returns are much higher on the money than you could get with a passive investment.
Oh yes, most definitely. And
Right.
I know it's a little bit of a deep conversation, but I think it's really great for your exposure, because maybe somebody out there listening appreciates your knowledge. How long have you been in this business brokerage?
27 years full time.
Obviously it shows.
Yeah.
I got into
Overnight
it.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
More like an
Well,
overachiever.
I started out with a large dose of fear motivation. I had 2 children under 5. I was 33 years old, and my wife, who had a finance degree and was a stockbroker, had become a homemaker. And I kind of had a gun to my head, so to speak, to
Do or die. Yeah.
yeah. And
Learn quickly.
it's interesting. My brother-in-law, who I worked for first as a business broker, they own NAI South Coast Commercial locally, very reputable firm, super firm. He told me, because I needed money, right? And I'm in outside sales. And he said, listen, Dale, he said, forget about the money and just work in the client's best interest. Don't think about money. Don't
Absolutely,
think about
yes.
deals. You provide service to that client, and you always act in the client's best interest. And wow, that was really good advice. It makes decisions in a transaction and advising a client so much easier, just to look at their overall position, take your knowledge of what you know about the industry and just give them your honest opinion, and then let them and their counsel and their accountant, make the decisions.
Hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
In the long run, that's the best way to run a business.
Right.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Always. And you can kind of feel when you're being sold. Like, I hate topics that I don't understand well, like insurance, for example, where maybe you kind of just get sold some coverage and then you find out later when you need to make a claim that you didn't have the right coverage,
Everything
you needed.
Right.
But or also maybe with stock brokerage or something, they have different returns to them based on what they sell you, so, which may or may not be in your best interest, but maybe in theirs. And I'm not picking on either industry or on any people, so please forgive me for those analogies. But the general point is, if you can educate your client and tell them what's in their best interest, that's how you build referrals and build a book of business and have people coming to you. Because most of our work is by referrals from wealth managers, CPAs, attorneys, and realtors like yourselves. So if we don't, and this is a pretty small town, so if we don't do right by your clients, that word's going to get around pretty fast.
Right.
Oh, yes, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Even though population is growing, it's still a very small
Right.
town, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody talks to
Yeah.
everybody.
And I think even in a large town, you'd still want that, obviously, to have good ethics and that be
Oh,
your business
absolutely.
model.
Sure.
But, it's a little bit of the Wild West out there sometimes, and you don't always get that in any given industry.
True.
Right.
And most of the time you hear everybody's horror stories instead of all the good stories. So that's not good to have,
Yeah,
bad.
the bad news travels quicker than the good
Yeah,
news.
right.
Unfortunately. Right. One little
And that's-
mistake, everyone knows. All the
Right.
good stuff you did? No, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I got into the real estate industry, because as a single parent, I had a less than good transaction. And I thought, I am never going to let anybody I encounter again have an experience like this. So that's why I got my real estate license.
Good for you.
That's
I felt the same thing when I first started in business brokerage. I read the standard contract that a buyer would enter to buy the business, and I thought it was ridiculous and I wouldn't sign it. So I made my own, that had like a blanket due diligence clause, like an inspection for a house, where they could review everything to do with the business and cancel at their sole discretion. When I first started in the industry, that clause wasn't in there. They were kind of trapped. If there was a 5% variance in the financial representations that they initially received, was the only way they could terminate the contract. Otherwise, they were trapped in it. And that was a point that was arguable. So it was a terrible contract, I thought, when I came into the industry. And I immediately thought of myself as a consumer. Wow, I wouldn't sign that. That's terrible. So
Mhm.
I think that's
Right.
it's always good to put yourself in someone else's, shoes when you're trying
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
provide service. Yeah,
And contracts are so much more understandable now. They're not written in legalese like they used to be. So they're much more understandable for the consumer. Yes, you do want to sit down and explain the contract with them, of course, before they sign. But generally, when they read through that contract, it's plainer English now.
sure.
does help to have a good attorney, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
nice.
we always recommend people use attorneys to read. We have asset purchase contracts, which can become complicated. There's covenants not to compete in there. There could be, they could buy the stock of the company. That could be a type of contract. And maybe it's a contracting business that has a state Department of Business and Professional Regulation license for contracting, like electrical or plumbing, and it's a special license, and the seller has it, but the buyer doesn't. So the seller is going to qualify the buyer for maybe a year, is going to be the qualifier for that company, while the buyer works on obtaining that license. And there's going to have to be a legal agreement about that. The seller is going to have to be named as co-insured on the business liability policy and so forth. So we kind of end up with a lot of moving parts sometimes in our transactions. They can get a little complicated.
Much more involved than people think.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost scary.
Yeah.
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 I don't
It
think-
is a specialty, niche for sure. It takes an odd duck like me. I'm kind of a pencil neck geek, number crunching. I like reading contracts. I like running numbers. I like people, and I've been a lot of my career in sales. So you got to be able to kind of do all that, just make relationships, serve people, but you have to understand, I think, contract law and finance, quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Just by the things you've been explaining to us. I was left behind a while ago, but
it's trial and error over many years of learning things the hard way.
yeah.
So Dale,
So-
I'm looking at the clock and I know we are keeping you over time, but it's been a great conversation and very important information that you're getting out there to everybody. But before we will let you go, give us your contact information, please.
Sure. You can find us on the web at acquisitionexperts.net if you just Google acquisition experts. Also, if you Googled my name, Dale Armour, ARMOR, you would find a lot of profiles and our website and many of my profiles, which would lead you back to the company. Our telephone number is 772-220-4455.
And your office is located in Stewart, right?
Yeah, we're at 50 South East Ocean Boulevard, Suite 205 in the Esplanade Building downtown near the courthouse.
Oh, okay.
And we
I
own
knew
that
your old
we own
location.
that building. We own that. We own our condo in there. So we followed our own advice to build the equity.
Good.
After many years of paying rent, it's never too late to
Yeah.
practice what you preach, right?
That's true. Yes, that's true.
So to speak.
Sometimes you just have to get in the position to do that. So
Right. It takes time.
yeah.
772-220-4455.
Yes,
Okay. And
Thanks.
acquisitionexperts.net.
correct. It'll come up either way, actually, .com or .net.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So with the COVID and everything, how has your business been going, say, in the last 3 to 6 months?
We had a record year last year and the year before. People have very short memories. I mean, we were shocked. There was all these industry webinars when COVID really took effect in Florida in March of 2020. The industry was in a total panic. And I think the CARES Act 1 and 2 SBA incentives really saved our business and a lot of small business owners. And then, the real estate market's been red hot, and the worse the news was everywhere else, the more people started moving to Florida, and we're, having record setting numbers. So our business is really strong, and the most popular business post-COVID are service related businesses, anything to do with servicing the home, contracting related, which was never the case before in the history, but they
Very
got, I
true,
think,
right.
identified as more essential businesses. The grass has to be cut. You have to have an air conditioner. You have to maintain your home. You have to maintain the plumbing, the electric. These things have to be done, whether, if something doesn't work,
Mhm.
your car or in your house, you're going to have it fixed, whether you're in a pandemic or not.
That's
These things
true.
you have to have.
Right.
So those have
Yeah.
been the more popular type of businesses, services, and contracting. Whereas retail was real soft. The restaurants and the retail, took a big hit and struggled, but they're coming back now. As you can see, Florida's packed, the restaurants are packed, retail's doing well. So
Mhm.
I
And
think,
as population increases,
It'll
Yeah.
get better.
yes,
Yeah.
it will.
I'd rather be in Florida doing what I do right now than anywhere in the nation. I think regardless of what happens nationally or globally, Florida is somewhat insulated to some degree, just because of the number of people moving here is going to drive business.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you could be in California,
Well, Florida's the new California. You'd find it hard to believe,
agree
and
with
it's
you. No,
amazing.
I
But
agree.
we never used to have people calling us from California wanting to move to Florida, and we get those calls weekly now. There's a
Mhm.
lot of restrictions out there. They're tired of how regulated the businesses are. The state's amazing and beautiful. The build out there is incredible, but they're what is it, 38 billion in debt or something? I mean, they're basically
Yeah.
bankrupt. They have financial problems. They're overregulated. People aren't happy with the politics there, and they're moving to Florida. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I've never
They
heard that
still
until
want the
last
climate,
year.
they still want the nice climate in the beautiful coastline, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a much better
Well,
yeah.
place to
And their
live.
governor says that they have a gigantic surplus. Yet
And they know better.
highway patrolmen that I've known that were chips, they're not receiving their pensions, and they haven't for the last several years.
That's
So,
a shame.
yeah, it's crazy. It's
I love California. I used to live in San Diego, but I just couldn't afford to live there. You know, when I was young, I was in my mid-20s, and I thought it was amazing. But
yeah, we were there for 7 years, and at the time when we were in television at Channel 39 in San Diego, we thought that that was the best combination of living and working in an area until we got here from
Right.
Los Angeles.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this place is
Yeah.
crazy.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
so Florida's the new California. It's official.
But it is Florida.
It is Florida.
Florida
It's
has
not-
its
right,
own
right.
personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I just mean
don't
for
want that to
destinations
No, I
Right.
you want to
understand.
live in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And just think, when we annex Cuba, it's going to get even bigger.
Just a short boat ride. I'll paddle you over. Yeah.
Maybe maybe they can use that yacht they have on the intercoastal.
There you go.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Dale, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day and a good week. And we'll get the video to you as soon as it's posted.
Great information.
Thank you so
Greg.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having me. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Have a
Bye
good
bye.
You too.
Yeah, welcome aboard, Dale. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome. I called him the wrong name.
Boy,
I
was
apologize.
was he informative.
Oh,
Yes.
man, that's
And I didn't realize
there's so
that you
it's
have
a-
to co-sign for somebody that they have specialty licenses.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
I have never heard that.
A lot of
before. It's like,
information. Lot of
whoa.
information.
Oh,
Well,
not
that
sure I'd
might
be
have
ready
come
to do
about.
that.
I mean, I don't really know, but that may have come about because things don't happen as quickly as they used to.
You're right.
Even the state has employee issues. So
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
I was
Wow.
just talking to somebody this weekend and they were saying about how long it took them to get their license, even in Florida.
Yeah.
Like months, not weeks, months.
Like driver's license?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really wish I could remember who that was I was talking to this weekend, but that's what it sounded like. Took them like 3 months to get their license.
Well, and you can apply and make an appointment, and I got mine in a couple days. A year ago
When-
this week, when TSA lost my driver's license up in Orlando.
Was that a year ago already?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Oh.
amazing. That just seems like yesterday.
I
He was going to the
know.
national tournament. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you'll be going back.
Yeah, I guess so. Kansas,
Maybe-
here we come.
Maybe you better get another license as a backup just in case before you go.
Oh, brother.
goodness.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
interesting.
Absolutely crazy.
So I'm going to bring up a subject which we had started kind of off the subject, but a little bit about what Dale was talking about. So many people say that real estate industry is in a bubble right now, but I don't want to disagree with them, but I don't think Florida real estate is in a bubble. I think real estate values are here to stay. I don't see them dropping anytime soon, even if the economy in the country tanks like it did before. But this article that I read explains the differences between the increase in the real estate values now and what we had during the big crash that we all remember. This is simple supply and demand. When COVID hit, so many people wanted to move someplace other than where they were living, and it was probably the first opportunity that they had to do that. So it became a mass moving
Yeah.
throughout the whole country.
lot of times you're tied to where your job is because
Right.
of
But COVID
location,
taught
but
us that that wasn't the case
case
Didn't
anymore.
work out of your
Right,
house. Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think sometimes, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think sometimes people wanted not to be in such a densely populated area either, because I think
You bet.
initially they said that that was the closer environment, the more apt that you could have, a higher risk. So I think they wanted to get out of the risk zone as well.
Yeah. Do you
but-
want to be stuck in an elevator with somebody that's going
Exactly.
100 floors?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. I really get it.
Anyway, so this is a good article about that. It explains that it really is a simple supply and demand. And we have so many people wanting to come to Florida that I don't see our prices going down. They have leveled off a little bit. They certainly aren't increasing as fast as they had over the last year and a half. Oh, no, we're 2 years into COVID now in a couple of weeks, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this year residential real estate anyway seems like it's leveling off a little bit.
But it
Not
could have.
increasing by 30% a year anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was, that could not sustain itself.
No, I don't think so
It's
either.
good.
Well, no, I mean, it's already priced itself out of a lot of people's markets. And now with interest rates over 4%, that of course compounds that issue. But in general, I don't see our prices dropping. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, you see the offers come rolling in from all sorts. I got a weird one that came in on a text from San Francisco. And you guys talked about it a few weeks back, investors
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that were looking at like 100 homes in Port St. Lucie. And it's like,
Wow.
really?
Yeah.
And sight unseen.
Yeah.
I'm
They,
thinking,
Yeah. Well,
really?
and that's another thing that has pushed values up so much is because now these investors who weren't so interested in the real estate market, let's say 20 years ago, they were investing in other things. Well, now that they have found the real estate industry going into the stock market and so much money available to investors to invest that they are investing in real estate. That's what created the iBuyers.
mhm.
Those are industrial buyers. Those are groups of people who have pulled their money together and they're competing side by side with a regular buyer.
How can they buy at a high price though? And still
Make it,
have a conscience for their own investors? They don't, obviously, but
Well, they're banking on two things. First of all, I don't want to single out any company, but there is a big company that already has gotten out of the iBuyer business because they were making bad decisions.
there you go.
They were
Yes.
overpaying.
Well, that's
And-
what I mean. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
It depends. Some iBuyers are buying to resell. Some iBuyers are buying to hold and rent. So first of all, it depends on your business model, what you've chosen to do with that residential real estate property that you are competing against a regular buyer for. And if your model tells you that you have to buy so many houses within a certain period of time, then there are people who just take all those funds available to do that, not thinking of the end result of that. Are we buying in a market where it's going to hold its value, or are we buying in a neighborhood that's going to hold its value? Are we buying to turn around and sell, which is very expensive, especially if the market isn't increasing at 30% a year? Or are we buying to maintain and rent out and create income that way? So it depends on their model.
Wow.
The last statistics I read, This time last year, I read that there probably was 10% of the market that was being purchased by iBuyers, and now it's more like 15%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That large. I just don't see the sense in it. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, stop and think about it. There's going to be people, because people are priced out of the real estate market now, they still need a place to live. So if we don't have enough apartments to rent, then these companies are going to start renting out the house. I even saw signs on brand new construction in Port St. Lucie not very long ago. Brand new construction, and the sign says for rent.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they know that the rental prices are up too. So even if they do buy and build a new home, a rental, what someone pays for rent is going to cover the cost of the mortgage of that home for the
Well, and
iBuyer,
that's what Carol says all the time too. It's like, okay, so we sell our house
right?
at pretty good profit, say. Where do you go?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Yes, you're paying the same, you are
Ex-
paying that same price to
Exactly.
downsize, basically.
Yeah.
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 Because that's the only way you're going to get something for less is if you downsize, and you're not going to get less, but you're going to get something probably equal
I know what you mean.
To
Yeah,
what you're-
yeah.
doing or paying for. Yeah. So
Right. I think that's one of the reasons why inventory is so tight right now, because people do realize that. And that's a conversation that I have with every seller when I talk to them. What is your plan? Where are you going? Do you have a place to go? Do you realize that if you sell at this price and you need to buy something else in the area, this is the price you're going to be looking at to buy? So
Okay, I got to ask you, because this has been like really big on the nightly news shows, that millennials are not interested in real estate.
not true.
that's not true.
Aha!
Look at this article.
Another myth on nightly news.
Millennial demand is driving up prices in family-friendly neighborhoods. And
There you
this is a national article.
Of course, Port St. Lucie is the safest city of its kind.
The only reason millennials would not be interested in buying their own home is because they can't afford it. They don't have the cash because they're
Not in the right industry.
they're young and
Income.
they have not built up that cash yet,
Right.
or because they can't qualify for a mortgage.
Right. We had open house this weekend, and everybody who came through was millennial.
Really?
Absolutely. Couples looking for
Yeah.
homes.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and that, yep.
There was one person that I had a conversation with. They were wanting to know how much would they be able to rent it for if they bought it to rent. So they're
Well, see,
looking at
that's
it as
those
an
little,
investment.
that's those little individual investors, which there are many of
Okay.
in Florida,
Right.
and
Huh.
have been many of in Florida for a long time.
But the one issue with the home that they came to look at is that you have to own it for a year before you can rent it. So
Which
they
is
would-
pretty typical
typical,
anymore in
yeah.
most neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
so-
Yeah, I know we're running out of
This has
time.
been a
Paula,
cooking
did you bring
show,
some
I
houses
swear.
today?
This has been a great show. Yeah.
Well, while you do
you
that,
find
I
them?
brought some stats with me that I can do. These are stats that came out from Florida Realtors. And the first one I have up here is Indian River County. And this is comparing January of 2021 to January of 2022. In January of 2021, Indian River County, single-family homes, there were 229 sold. And in January 22, there were 225 sold.
Okay.
The median, let's do the average. The average sales price January 2021 was a little over 423,000.
Whoa.
And in January 2022, it was a little over 499,000.
What?
in
Yep.
a year. Mhm.
Yep.
1 year.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Oh, brother.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's do Okeechobee County.
It's growing. Well, the
Okeechobee
county's
County.
not growing, but the town is. Yeah.
January 2021. This also gives stats about cash sales too. January 2021, there were 21 houses, single-family homes sold in Okeechobee County. January 2022, there were 25 sold. And the average sales price in January 2021 was a little over 276,000. This is surprising. In January 2022, it was a little over 273,000.
Woo,
So that shows
good
you
investment.
where the market is leveling off a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, but still, it's a good investment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we only have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
Do you have a couple of houses to talk about?
Sure. We have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home in the Fort Pierce area. It's 3,058 square living feet, and they're asking 525 for it. It's on a 1.15 oak studded acre. It has a pool. For guys, it has that dream garage of 42 by 29,
Whoa,
18-foot and 10-foot high ceilings.
boy, you can put anything in that
Let's
garage.
get out
you
of
want.
this place and we'll move there.
Right. It
Oh,
does have
yeah.
a pool with a cabana bath, a stone fireplace, metal roof. Sounds like a really nice place.
Mhm.
So that's in Fort Pierce, and that is 525. And then there's a condo in, where did it tell me where it was? Well, somewhere in the vicinity. I'm sorry, St. Lucie. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, 1,170 square living feet. It's a 2-2 split plan corner unit. AC was done in 20, and a new kitchen with cabinets and Corian counters were done in 21. And it is an active adult community that includes tennis, bocce, pool, bingo, billiards, arts, crafts, whatever you want to do.
How
They're
much?
asking 179 for it, 179,000.
Mhm.
Okay.
Get one more.
Okay, one more, still in this, actually, I wasn't sure where this was actually located, but it's the St. Lucie Fort Pierce region. 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
Oh, we're running out of time.
Yeah. What's
So
the
you
price?
can call or
295.
text us
295.
Yeah.
772-200-5105. Our email address is mydreamhometeam@yahoo.com. Let us know if you have any questions or suggestions for topics.
That sounds great. Well, boy, this is an amazing show, folks.
Everybody have a great day.
Yeah, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to My Dream Home Radio. Right here on WPSL Global. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, WSTU, Stewart.